heads of Smooth Talks. We're a TED Talk Life Club. And throughout the event, if you want any snacks, we have a few cookies and chips over there. I will start off with the acknowledgements. One of the core values at St. Michael's University School is respect. With this in mind, we acknowledge that our school rests in the heart of Strait Salish territory, a living culture with its own rights, ceremonies, and unfolding history. We honor the Esquimalt, Songhees, and Wasanich peoples, whose homelands we share and whom we recognize as our neighbors.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. Thank you for coming to our first Smooth Talks event this year. Smooth Talks is a fun club allowing individuals to gather and inspire each other.
My name is Emily, and today's theme is the value of time. We have three speakers, Elena Graham, as well as Houtian performing his original composition today. Our first speaker to welcome to the stage is Elena Graham.
It's actually me.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Kuzminski-Parry, and today I'll be talking about the value of time. 2 hours. For most people, I bet it's difficult to figure out what to do with free 2 hours in your day. But for me, it's pretty simple. I love to watch movies. That's why I'll be talking about how time relates to the movie industry. Firstly, there's something you need to understand. This speech is just under 10 minutes long, but it took over 2 hours to finish. That means that the final product you're listening to now is 1/12 of all of the work I put into it. There's some interesting ways to apply this math to the movie industry. Towards Data Science says that the average movie theatrically released in 2023 is 1 hour and 45 minutes. But an hour and 45-minute movie takes over a year to create. That means that the final product you're experiencing is 0.00015% of all of the time that it took for it to be ready for you to watch. That means what you're watching is just a fraction of the effort that was put into it. So it's important to appreciate what you're experiencing. There are a lot of cases, though, where the script was created a lot before the movie was finished. But all of this time was production for the movie to be finished. So if we count this as production time, the numbers get a little more scant. Okay? For example, the Incredibles series. The first Incredibles movie came out in 2004, but the second movie came out in 2000. Oh, do I click every slide? Can you click? Click one more time. Okay, thanks. I'll just tell you. So the Incredibles series. The first movie came out in 2004, but the second movie came out in 2018. That means there was a 14-year gap between the two movies. But if you will remember, they actually take place right after each other. So it's a perfectly seamless transition through the two movies. So that means 14 years happened in the real world when no time happened in the movie world. Now, assuming that no time is about like 1 second, I tried to crunch the numbers, and here's what I got. Here's what you're experiencing when watching the movie out of what actually, the time that it actually took to make the movie. 0.00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000% of all of the work that it took to put into the movie. I really liked The Incredibles too, but I didn't know that I needed to be appreciating it that much, because that is a lot of effort put into nothing for me. And all the characters look just as good in the second movie as they did in the first movie. Now that's incredible. Thank you. I myself can relate to this effect of time being different in the movie world versus the real world when I made my first short film, Ascension, which is a masterpiece of fiction. And it, in the movie, a friend of mine who was acting had to leave midway through production to go to a sports camp. But I didn't know what to do to get his character out of the movie. So even though two clips take place right after each other, there was actually a week's difference between them. I'll show you the clips now. Here's what I decided to do.
I'm doing great. Ah! Help! Help! Please
Thanks, Mom, for laughing. So I decided, I did what any great director would do. I killed him off. Woo! I'd like to shift gears for a bit, though, and talk about how movies used to be made, because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about there in relation to time. Mostly, movies used to be made a lot quicker than they are now. While now, an hour and 45-minute movie takes over a year to create, in 1950, an hour and 45-minute movie took only 4 to 6 months to create. That's a lot less time, and there are a few reasons for this. One is that movies used to cost a lot less. In 2023, the average movie you'll see in theaters costs $63 million. That is a lot of money. But in 1950, the average movie cost only $13 million, and that's adjusted for inflation. That means that over 80 years, there's been a 500% increase in budgets. That's huge, so it's no wonder that movies take longer now to create, because studios are getting more involved because they want to make sure that they're turning a profit. And when studios get involved, the movie production lengthens. Another reason for movies being made quicker in the past than they are now is because work ethic for producers has changed a lot. So that's a representation of how you can see budgets have increased a lot over time. And if you're interested, that's also horror budgets have increased that much. If you're interested, it's the best graphic you can find. So work ethic has changed a lot for producers. For example, if we were, in the modern day, if an actor were to get sick, it's expected that their scenes would be postponed. But in the 50s and 60s, this wasn't the case. For example, Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain. I really love this movie. Raise your hand if you've seen it. Woo! Good job. It's a great movie. I really recommend it. Anyway, work ethic was really different for actors in the past. While now, an actor would, if sick, would postpone their scenes. In the past, it wasn't the same. In this scene, the famous Singing in the Rain scene, Gene Kelly actually had 103-degree fever, which is 39 degrees Celsius. That's enough to get you sunburned. There was a war zone going on inside of his body. I myself was sick recently, and I assure you, I was not ready to do a musical number. But work ethic was just different in the past. And so he got up, he did his song and dance, and it may even be the take that was used in the movie. Because of how movies used to be made, we don't know which takes were used in the final cut, but his work ethic was so good that we don't know if he was sick in the final movie or not. That's pretty amazing. The biggest change, perhaps, in time in the movie industry over the last 80 years or so has been the pacing. Movies are so much quicker paced than they used to be. This is a shot from the movie Lawrence of Arabia, which is one of my favorites. Raise your hand if you've seen it. Good job, people. I love that movie, and I highly recommend it. So it is actually really one of the slowest paced movies I've seen. But I actually prefer slower paced movies because, for example, in this movie, there is a 20-minute sequence where Lawrence rides on his camel, goes to a location, picks up some people, and goes back to the first location. It takes place over 3 days, and it takes 20 minutes out of your time. It is an exhaustive sequence to watch, and were it made today, the movie would certainly not include that sequence. It would include something like 3 days later. But I think it's a really important part of the movie because it lets us understand Lawrence's mentality in that time. Lawrence is a very emotional character, and so it's hard to know what he's thinking at all times. And if we don't understand how he's going mad in the desert because this is such a different place for him from England, then it's hard to understand why he's acting the way he is. It's important to understand the characters, and with a slower paced movie, we just get more of a chance to understand the characters. But movies now are what I would call brain dead action. They are so quick that it doesn't even matter what the characters are thinking, because they're doing it. Wait, are you trying to catch up to what they're doing? They're doing something else now. It's so quick that there's no time to breathe, and I really prefer movies that let you breathe, like Lawrence of Arabia. I want to talk about the future of movies, because there are a lot of different ways that it could go in relation to time. For sure, we know that the future of movies is on streaming. Streaming is staying strong, but cinemas are unfortunately dying. Okay? And there are a few advantages that come with movies transitioning more and more to streaming. One is that movies can be paused on streaming. You can watch them on your own time. That means that movies can be really long on streaming. For example, The Irishman. The Irishman is a 3-hour, 20-minute Martin Scorsese movie. It is fantastic, but when it was in theaters, it really didn't turn much of a profit because no one wanted to go to a 3-hour, 20-minute movie where they could never go up to get to the washroom or anything. But on streaming, it was the #1 movie on trending on Netflix for months on end because it's a 3-hour, 20-minute Martin Scorsese movie. When you can pause it, then you can really appreciate the movie. But in theaters, that's just long enough that audiences aren't going to go. So we know that movies can be very long on streaming, but the pace is still going to be about the same, if not even quicker, as attention spans drop, because The Irishman is still a very quick movie. Now, what can you take away from what I've talked about today? Well, in the beginning of my speech, I talked about how there's a big difference between the time that happens in the real world and the time we experience in movies. And that means that when you experience an hour and 45 minutes of a movie, you're actually experiencing an hour of people's time. Hundreds, thousands of people's time. And while researching this speech, I realized that it's important to appreciate all of the effort that goes into movie making. I love movies, and I loved movies when I was just watching an hour and 45-minute movie. But when I realized how much time it really takes, the hundreds upon thousands of hours that everyone is putting in, I just love movies even more. And as well, I was doing lots of research on how studios react to audiences' ticket buying, for example. And I realized that audiences really only make movies studios only really make movies that audiences are willing to go to. If audiences are going to action movies but not going to comedies, well, studios are going to make more action movies and fewer comedies. So if you're like me and you prefer slower paced movies to brain dead action, then you should go to more slower paced movies that you like because studios will understand and react to this better. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ben. That was a wonderful way to start off the show.
Next up, we have Elena Graham.
Hi. The theme of today is the value of time. I understand that some of you might have already heard the concept thousands of times, especially when you are an Asian kid. Our parents are like, hey, stop procrastinating. The time is very precious. Do some work, fulfill yourself. They're trying to tell us that time is an object that we need to utilize effectively. There's nothing wrong here. Wasting time is just a terrible stuff that we do every day. But at some moment, when I was too eager to hold the time tightly, when I did not achieve my expectation using time, I feel anxiety. Even if I finish work ahead of time in the short term, I don't feel much better. Sometimes I just got frustrated while hearing the topic, the preciousness of time. However, today, I want to talk about something else, a new perspective that time gives out meaning to objects, actions, and other ordinary things in the world. I have an example. A lot of things have happened in 1976. Battles and conflicts are going on, but in New York City, a journalist has came up with an inspirational idea. Century safe. The century safe basically means burying a time capsule for 100 years. Can any of you guess that what kind of stuff will be buried in this box and sent to the people who live 100 years later? Kind of? Okay. When I was reading this, I was like, wow, time capsule, what's a cool concept. I can imagine those magnificent historical pieces being split into little boxes, buried into ground, and then how great effects on people in the future. The items I was thinking about were things like forbidden political documents, notes of the latest scientific inventions, and the most expensive goods in the world. because this is for 100 years later, right? It was supposed to be significant. But no, at least reading through the list, I don't feel much special. There was a gold pen and inkstand, a book on temperance, a collection of American signature and snapshots of presidents and other politicians. Are they that significant? If you want to prepare the same capsule now, it would not take you more than $50. But they are significant. The vibe from 19th century, the smell of ink they left, the angle of their letters they wrote, and the authenticity of their era. The capsule was not a big deal at the first second they buried them. But with the development of time, it became more and more valuable. They are not important by themselves. Time and age gave out the level of meaning, that is, the meaning of 100 years. Opening a capsule must be exciting to do, but normally we don't have the kind of chance. So how do we normally experience the value of time? Let me talk about myself. I was in a public school from grade 1 to 3. We have 45 people in the class, and each student have a student number from 1 to 45 because our teacher cannot remember our names. My number is pretty easy to guess. I'm the number 1, which means every time the class has any kind of new class activities, I will be the first one to be called up and try. The first one to answer the new type of question. The first one to do the duty. The first one to speak in front of everyone. Sometimes I just mess up everything because I did not pick to be the student number 1. The number was only associated with a bit awkwardness of myself. But it was not a big deal because anyway, I transferred to another school pretty soon, and then we did not even care about student numbers because we only have 24 people in the class. So that was not really important to me. However, in the new school, I realized that I caught a lot of opportunity. I became more willing to try something new. I got a lot of opportunity for myself, and even now, when I was writing the script, I thought, what was the symbol that was exaggerated by time and influenced me, shaped my own identity? Oh, because I was always the first student to be caught up when I was in grade 1. The number 1, was merely a number to me, but it was too high behind me that I often forget it existed in my life. And every time I stood up for a new experience, it was not that important at all. It was only me being a little bit more courageous. But on a large time scale, these events linked together and eventually formed myself. Now I can call them meaningful. Number 1 does have connotation to my identity. So, what is the value of time? These moments of objects that were somehow neglected by ourselves becoming more and more magnificent with time passing through. And the value of time is the process of time giving through its own meaning. Every time you listen to a familiar song, taste a food from your childhood, or relate a memory that was far behind you, every time you dive back in time and meet the younger and less mature you, every time you notice your growth in your life, the feeling you perceive, the sense of traveling through spaces is the value time provides. If I said, don't chase the time, it would be unrealistic because we are all high school students and we have a lot of stuff to do, and we do need some time management skills. However, I hope this speech can provide you a new insight into the value of time. So next time you see time flying through your fingers, don't just panic, because time is not purely an object. Think of it as a living vehicle, ultimately bringing some precious present for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for sharing that speech with us. That was really amazing.
Next up, please take the time to enjoy a musical performance by Houtian Zhong.
not least, let's welcome Elena Graham.
Okay. Hi everyone. In case all else fails, I've put this up there just so that if I get really boring, you have something to look at. I really hope you can be forgiving. There's a lot of jokes in here. It'll probably be hit and miss. So if you feel like it's supposed to be a joke, just give me a little chuckle. What is the most expensive 63 seconds you can think of? Well, the shortest ride at Disney, the Barnstormer in the Magic Kingdom, can reach up to half an hour of wait time for only 63 seconds of what some may consider pure adrenaline. Is it really worth it? Now, you pay for a massage by the minute. McDonald's will pay you to work there by the hour. You pay for your car rental by the day, your apartment by the month, and I pay for my snoo bill by the year. People in Canada have the average life expectancy of 82 years. Some are not so lucky. The American sand-burrowing mayfly lives for only 1 day, 2 if it's lucky. Once they're adults, they have less than 1 hour to live. Some, however, like Ming the clam, lived for 507 years. Now, the true challenge is deciding how we, as humans in Canada, with the average life expectancy of around 82 years, want to spend the limited amount of time we have on this planet. Time is more important in some situations than others. One of the most stressful activities that happens every single day in my own house is cooking. The other day, I was making garlic Alfredo for my mom's birthday dinner. No pressure, right? And it says, I'm making the sauce, and it's like, simmer for 2 minutes. And I think, okay, that's not a long time. I got this. This recipe looks very simple. And so I simmer it, or well, there start to be little bubbles, and I think, at what point can I even call this a simmer? Is this a simmer? And then it says I can't even let it simmer for longer than 2 minutes, because then I need to add water, and I have to add other stuff, and it gets complicated. And I can't handle that, so I'll just ask my dad. The kitchen, for me, is a battlefield. I have a tough time in the kitchen. The timer is like a ticking time bomb. The oven is a burning inferno. The apron is my shield, and the spatula is my weapon of choice. No matter how long I spend making my meal, my family always seems to devour it in less than 10 minutes. This really brings to light the question of, is it worth my time to spend so much time making something that will be inhaled in no time at all? And the answer to this, unfortunately, can only be decided once I'm already done making the recipe. This is when I ask myself, did I have fun cooking the recipe? Did I enjoy cooking the recipe? And most importantly, did it even taste good? I feel like the spatula is always there. It's always there. It's there when I'm doing my homework. It's there when I'm getting a glass of water. It's always there when I don't need it. The only time it's not there is in the mere seconds I'm looking for it as I watch my omelet burn. It's as though it selects the most inopportune moment to disappear for maximum stress. Making popcorn can be stressful. 10 seconds more than the packet says, and your popcorn suddenly tastes like you're eating crunchy chunks of charred cardboard. 1.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes. That is what it says on every popcorn packet. That's horrific. There's no margin for error. Now, what I find interesting is that Olympic swimmers and Olympic runners, just like many other sports, can win if they do things in less time. Less than a millisecond can make all the difference between a silver medal and a gold medal. I think the actual value of a minute can really be lived when you're standing at the microwave. Because what else are you going to do in that short amount of time? You could pull out your phone, but what then? No. You're stuck staring at that little screen telling you how long until your popcorn is ready. My awareness is further heightened when I'm using a microwave at Howard's. Half of them don't work, so 3 people